Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, friends, family, and others of other persuasions. Welcome. Welcome to this, our final night of Koh-I-Noor, the Diamond Triad. We had an amazing run with an amazing review of the play for those of you who would have read it. We have not had amazing audiences though, and we had to cancel one performance because we were at odds with the Pound's organization and had to compete with another event taking place just outside the door, down the hill, where there was a live rock band playing. But we're here tonight, and I welcome you here tonight, and I know and I know that you are going to be the best audience we've had thus far. Now, just a couple of things. I'm not going to go into a long spiel. This is our final night. This is a community theater play, which means that it's put on by members of the community for a community. We build everything you see here. It all comes down starting tonight and tomorrow. And those of you who care to join us to bring it down, say yay now. Oh no, come on. No. Thank you for being here. Now, before I tell you about the play, I want to acknowledge two remarkable people who make this possible. We have a remarkable cast, yes, and more of that later. But we cannot do this without the kind of technical and other commitments that these two individuals always bring to every play that we do. The first, and I want you to take a bow of toast up there. This is our technical, musical, AI, sound effects, visual effects, tech man. He's a wonder. I've known him for a long time. He's a great friend, just not only of the family, but of the community in Fairfax here. So, thank you, Roach. And the second person, my beautiful wife there, Shoshana Perry. Who takes care of everything that needs to be taken care of, including most of the costumes you will see here tonight. And those that she didn't make, she of course, as costume designer, has to supervise. So one more time, please. So very briefly now about this play. Most of the action you see here and the words spoken, most of it is based on historical fact. Something that did happen. Something that continues to happen, which is a travesty which will be addressed in this triad. And because it's a triad, and not just your everyday run-of-the-mill play, where we have a fourth wall here, where you as the audience have to suspend disbelief and be removed from that. Today you are part of the play. We break this fourth wall, it doesn't exist. This is a courtroom. You are not only audience, you are jury. And as jury, I request that you take that seriously and respond in the way in which a jury would respond. So when you are requested, actually ordered, I believe is the word, to stand because the judge has entered, please, if you can, do so. If you can't, you will be escorted out. And especially at the end of the play, so please stay at the end, it's a dramatic finish. At the end of the play, you will be asked to bring in a verdict. So please then respond when the clerk of court asks you for your verdict. Please let us know what you think about whether the jewels, I'm not going to tell you. So we had a wonderfully talented cast. In fact, one of the best casts I've worked with in a long time. And those of you who've been to our plays before will know that we always try to put on some quality productions here. This, incidentally, is our 18th play. We've been doing this for 17 years, 18 plays, you can figure out the math as well. We did 2 1 year. So, welcome, enjoy the show, respond where appropriate, and no heckling. Last night we had a heckler, the judge had to tell him to quiet or he'd be sent out. He's not here. Anyway, enjoy the show. Pleasure to have you here.
Wait, Bubby. Has word been sent to my loyal generals?
Yes, Highness. They have been informed.
Good. Soon I'll be out of this horrible place. I will show the British the stuff a true Sikh woman is made of.
You are a great queen, my lady, an inspiration to all of us.
They took my boy away from me, Bubby. Imagine being so cruel.
It was a travesty, my dear queen.
Yes, was. I recall that day so well. I was so worried. You and I were in the courtyard of the palace that dreadful morning.
I remember, Highness.
I wondered where my Dilip had got to. He was always running off. I called to him, "Where are you, son?" He came running in, all smiles.
He'd been in the garden with that man Lawrence, the resident agent of the East India Company. He'd given Duleep a toy.
I warned my son not to trust him. "Be very careful," I said. "The British are taking over our land." The expression on Duleep's face changed. He held up the toy and said, "But I have this, see? He gave it to me." "Yes, that's what worries me, son. You spend so much time with people like that." "He was very kind, mother. Says he wants to help make me a truly great Maharaja." "I'm sure he does," I said.
I remember his little face when you told him you had to go to Lahore to meet with your loyal subjects.
Yes, I told him I was informed that while I was away, the British planned to take him from me and send him to England.
He was so worried. He asked why he had to go to England.
He wished to stay there with me in the palace and wondered why he couldn't accompany me to Lahore. I would have loved nothing more than to stay with my precious boy, but I reminded him that he was reigning king and had to remain in the palace.
I believe it was difficult for him to understand that as he was still a child, you were obliged to rule in his stead.
Yes, and now, ever since we Sikhs lost the last war, the British are determined to stop me from having any influence over my boy or the loyal generals of our army. What mistake I made by not hiding him, Bubby.
You had no choice, Your Majesty.
Maybe you're right. It was then that the Englishman and his soldiers came, remember? I said something funny.
No, sorry, Highness. It's just that I remember you were so regal, so strong, so defiant when you said, "What do you want?" And then when he started by addressing you as Madam.
Oh, I gave him what for. "Maharani," I said. "You will address me by my proper title."
And he did, albeit condescendingly.
He lied to me. He said that he was instructed to ensure my safety, that he was there to escort me to Lahore, that dissidents among my people threatened my safety, that I should not travel unescorted. I reminded him that I would not travel without my own soldiers and ladies in waiting. But he insisted, said that he was commanded by Lord Dalhousie, that terrible man, so-called British Governor General. Here we are, imprisoned in this fort.
But not for long, dear Queen.
That's right. Not for long. Go bring me my necessary garments. Let's get matters moving. You separated me from my son. You stole the Koh-I-Noor diamond that belongs to my kingdom. You've put me in a cage and you've locked me up. When you read this note, you will realize that for all your locks and all your centuries, I got out by magic. I told you plainly not to push me too hard. Don't think I'm simply running away like a thief. Understand this well. I am smarter than you. I escaped by myself unaided. Have you brought it?
Here it is, Your Majesty, just as you requested.
This will do. I will look like a Veda, the poor priestess. Thank you, Bubby. Have the others been informed?
Yes, Highness.
Now, will you accompany me?
Without question.
It can be very dangerous for you if we're caught.
I'm not afraid, dear Queen. I will accompany you to the ends of the earth, if necessary.
You are very loyal, Bubby. Come, let's make our way to the kitchen gate. You sure there's only one guard there?
Yes, and two of your girls are busy distracting him.
Good. Oh, now did you bring the money? Take that, British. Some bucksheesh for you. Oh, let's get out of this horrible place. Oh, but I'd love to see the look on their faces when they realize we've gone.
You are a very brave woman, my beloved Maharani.
We are sick women, Bobby. Sick women.
All rise. We are upstanding in court.
Be seated. Councillors,
My lord, I appear on behalf of the descendants of Maharaja Duleep Singh of the Sikh or Sikh Empire of Rajasthan, India in the year 1849.
My lord, I appear on behalf of the Crown.
Members of the jury, please raise your right hands. Do you solemnly affirm that you will listen to this case and that you will well and truly render a verdict based upon the evidence and the law presented in this courtroom? I do. Thank you.
members of the jury, you have been called upon to listen to the arguments of this case. I direct you to consider the factual evidence that will be presented by His Majesty's counsel on both sides of the proceedings. And you are to make your own objective determinations. You are to base your decisions solely on the evidence and not on any other information, outside influences, or emotional bias. I must stress the importance of your impartiality and independence. You are to approach the case with an open mind. Your role in these proceedings is of paramount importance, and the court thanks you for your service. Now, this unusual case is brought by representatives of the Sikh nation against the British Crown and its current ownership of a certain gemstone, the diamond known as the Koh-I-Noor. The item is alleged to have been obtained by the British East India Company in the year 1849 and taken by force from the Sikh royal household. Prosecuting counsel will attempt to convince you that the diamond was acquired illegally and should promptly and henceforth be returned to its rightful owner or owners, whoever they may be. Opposing counsel will present arguments that the jewel was in point of fact obtained legally, and any suggestion that it was taken by force and or under duress from its previous owner or owners is totally fallacious. Listen carefully to the evidence and to the testimonies of experts on both sides of the proceedings, who will be summoned to support or deny the points raised. I repeat, you are the sole arbiters and have the responsibility for rendering a fair and impartial verdict. Thank you. You may proceed, Miss Chamberlain.
Thank you, my lord. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as we are unable to procure the actual gem, I have here a facsimile of the Koh-I-Noor diamond, known as Mountain of Light in the Persian language, to offer an image of what the fabled artifact looks like. Thank you. Thank you. My clients claim that the actual precious stone, now in the Tower of London and embedded within the state crown of the late Queen Elizabeth, mother to our late Queen Elizabeth II, and grandmother to our reigning sovereign, His Majesty King Charles III, was illegally taken under duress and intimidation from the young Maharaja Duleep Singh by the British East India Company, and that it should be returned post-haste to the descendants of said Duleep Singh. The prosecution will call upon eyewitnesses and other expert testimony to verify this claim.
Mr. Barrett?
My lord, members of the jury, in rejecting the claim put forth by my learned friend, the defense will clarify that not only was the gem attained legally under the terms of the last Treaty Lahore in 1849, but that later it was willingly and wholeheartedly confirmed by said Duleep Singh as his gift to Her Majesty Queen Victoria. And that is not all. As recently as 2018, the Supreme Court of India and the Archaeological Survey of India both clarified that the gem was surrendered to the British and it was neither stolen nor forcefully taken away.
Well, of course they would. Today we live in a world of veiled diplomacy, with eyes often blinded to commerce and morality.
That comment is to be deleted from the record. The court is bound to deal only in facts, Miss Chamberlain.
Of course, my lord. If it please the court, the prosecution would like to begin by offering an overview of the gem standing today. Members of the jury, let us view this matter in its proper context. It is hardly a coincidence that the national museums, or the various royal houses, and the national museums of the most powerful nations retain the best collections of international art acquired in a manner similar to how the contested Koh-I-Noor diamond was appropriated. Enriched by the spoils of war, colonial occupations, and freelance plundering, such collections serve, to put it bluntly, as monuments to the maxim that might is right. Increasingly, however, victim nations refuse to view history as a closed book. Now, while the Netherlands may have returned over 100 bronzes to Nigeria, marking one of the largest repatriations of looted artifacts, it reflects but a small part of a much larger effort by various nations to rectify the historical injustice caused by colonial plunder. Greece has long demanded the return of the 253 Elgin marble sculptures taken from the Parthenon that are currently where? In the British Museum. Turkey, Mali, Bangladesh, China are but a few among a host of nations whose cultural heritage was ransacked. Even Mexico laments the loss of the feathered headdress of the Aztec Emperor Montezuma that is currently in a Vienna museum of all places.
Yes, Miss Chamberlain, that is all understood. What is your point?
My lord, it is important to understand the acquisition of the Koh-I-Noor diamond by the British Crown against a backdrop of war and an invading colonizer's aggression. For not only was a young boy king coerced into handing over the jewel, he was dethroned. He was separated from his land, from his dear mother, and forced to travel alone to a foreign, distant land to face his conqueror, his enforced sovereign, the Queen of England. And he had to hand over the Koh-I-Noor diamond in the bargain, as so-called payment of war booty. It is a travesty.
That is yet to be determined by the jury,
My lord.
Miss Chamberlain.
My lord, this is the historical truth, a snapshot of time that exposes the collective consciousness of a nation still struggling with a festering wound. Today, we are charged to address that, to put matters right. Today, while repatriation of stolen treasure from other countries has become an extremely important concept of law, and while today various countries acknowledge their ill-gotten gains, the Koh-I-Noor diamond continues to sit in a showcase in the Tower of London, only to be worn by the Sovereign of England on special occasions. That is a travesty.
As I said, Miss Chamberlain, that is to be determined by the jury. I believe you've made your point.
My lord.
Mr. Barrett.
My lord, members of the jury, it is true that the Koh-I-Noor diamond represents a symbol of power and prestige, but it is precisely because of this, as well as the heartfelt and sincere thanks to the British Crown, as represented by the East India Company in 1849, that the gem was freely gifted to Her Majesty Queen Victoria. It was not obtained illegally. No, it was gifted as a token of gratitude by the Sikh nation for all the various ways they were assisted, enabled, and championed by the British Crown that not only brought peace and understanding amongst the many various tribes at war in India, but also provided materials and expertise to further the prosperity of the peoples of the land. The defense will provide knowledgeable testimony to affirm and confirm this.
Miss Chamberlain, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, my lord. Prosecution would like to call Professor Nicola Parks.
Calling Professor Nicola Parks. Please state your name and profession.
I am Nicola Parks, Professor of Indian History, Fellow of St. Anthony's College, Oxford, and Director of the Asian Studies Center.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you your God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, my lord. Professor Parks, are you the author of the book Koh-I-Noor Koh-I-Noor, A Royal Crime, published by the History Society in 2001?
Yes.
And a second work titled Intimidation and the Crown, published the following year by the Matheson Press?
Yes.
Professor, in your own words, would you please summarize the subject matter of both books for the erudition of the court? For instance, would you say your work was largely concerned with the appropriation of the Koh-I-Noor diamond under dubious circumstances?
Objection, my lord. That is an unproven point of view.
Sustained.
Very well. Permit me to rephrase that. Professor, in reference to your extensive work on the subject, how would you describe the circumstances in which the Koh-I-Noor diamond was acquired by the East India Company?
I would say, at very best, the circumstances could be described as highly questionable.
As highly questionable. Thank you, Professor. Would you please elaborate, perhaps with an overview concerning the actual circumstances in which the priceless and famous gem was taken.
Well, by the mid-19th century, the East India Company had almost total dominion over India. Only the Sikh Empire of Maharaja Ranjit Singh stood defiantly unbound. Punjab's strategic importance was irresistible to the British, as was its most valuable treasure, the Koh-I-Noor diamond. However, as an historian, I should add that encapsulated within the many faceted chronicles concerning the stone lies the story of two women, the White Queen, Victoria, and the so-called Black Queen, Maharani Jindal Kaur.
And she was.
The young King Duleep Singh's mother and Queen Regent of the Sikh nation.
And how does she fit into what many perceive as a historically scandalous imbroglio?
She was imprisoned. She was separated from her young son, who was then made vulnerable to the machinations of the East India Company.
Objection, my lord. This is simply hearsay. A singular point of view that has been refuted by others.
Sustained.
Very well. Professor Parks, as a respected scholar, you have no doubt done your homework on the matter of the diamond's history as it pertains to this case.
Yes, I've done my homework.
And you contend that the real reason the Maharani Jindal Kaur was arrested was that her young son, the underaged king, could be got at in the parlance of today.
Yes, that is my contention.
Thank you, Professor. Your witness.
Professor Parks, the only question being debated here in court today regards the ownership of the contested stone. With that in mind, in your opinion, who has the rightful claim to the Koh-I-Noor diamond?
In my opinion, India, specifically the Sikh nation.
How so? Do not countries other than India also claim ownership of the stone? Countries like Iran, but Pakistan, even the Taliban of Afghanistan. In fact, has the stone not changed hands a great many times, having passed between various rulers in one blood-soaked episode after another, even well before the 16th century?
Yes.
And in like manner, did not come into the possession of the Sikh Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who earlier seized it from the Afghan Durrani almost a century before the British Crown took possession.
Yes, but at the time it was taken by the British, the stone belonged to the Sikhs, to the young King Duleep Singh and his mother, the Rani Jindal Kaur.
Belonged? No. I put to you that they had acquired it as war booty in their time, as did the British in theirs. And as far as the Maharani is concerned, Professor, is it not true that she was ipso facto spearheading an insurrection against the crown? And it was for this reason alone that she was imprisoned?
No, I would say that is an oversimplification of the facts.
But she was implicated, was she not? And of overthrowing the legal administration. And even while under strict surveillance, she was accused of corresponding with notable Sikh rebels, as evidenced by the interception of her letters by the authorities.
These so-called letters were used as a pretext for her removal to Chunar Fort. It was a fabricated plot, a fictitious scheme used to implicate her and justify her imprisonment and to separate her from her young son.
So you say. Members of the jury, is it not the duty of any legal administration to safeguard its interests against any act of insurrection and against any threat to its security? The fact of the matter is, the Maharani was removed to Koh-I-Noor Fort precisely because she was perceived as a threat to the crown, and not, as liberal historians would like to tell you, simply for the British government to get at her young son, the Maharaja Duleep Singh.
My lord, members of the jury, I concur. It is indeed the duty of any administration to safeguard its interests against acts of insurrection. But should not the same argument be presented where there is an illegal takeover by force of a sovereign nation, as was the case with the Sikh nation and its regent queen, Maharani Jindan Kaur? She professed the same duty to defend her sovereign right against the British, who'd invaded her country in the guise of the East India Company, a business corporation that took over the land by sowing dissent and division among its rulers and pitting one against the other. Is that not recorded back, Professor Parks?
It is. The arrest and exile of the Maharani highlighted the British strategy of removing powerful individuals who could pose a threat to their expansion and rule in India. Her unwavering spirit and continued resistance, even in exile, solidified her image as a defiant figure in Sikh history. Upon the boy Duleep Singh's ascension to the throne in 1843, Jind Kaur assumed the role of regent, a position that brought her into direct confrontation with both internal dissenters and the British Empire. Known for her assertive personality and sharp political insight, she took the reins of the Sikh government and led her court with a combination of diplomacy and, when necessary, force.
Would you please inform the jury just how effective she was as Queen Regent?
She possessed remarkable military and administrative skills that established her as one of the most respected female leaders in Sikh history. As the mother and guardian of the young Maharaja, she managed the vast Sikh empire during a time of internal conflict and rising British threats. She skillfully navigated these challenges and handled Punjab's political landscape with strategic insight, military organization, and diplomatic expertise. Her goal was to preserve the Sikh Empire's sovereignty and shield it from the rapidly expanding British East India Company.
And how did the British react to this?
They were alarmed by her influence and strength, my lord. They reacted by depicting her as manipulative and dangerous. As British records show, they undermined her authority by referring to her as the Messalina of Punjab in a crude and misogynistic attempt to paint her as a licentious figure akin to Valeria Messalina, the promiscuous third wife of the Roman Emperor Claudius. However, these portrayals only reflect the British fear of her influence and her resistance to their interference in Sikh affairs.
So, how does the taking of the Koh-I-Noor diamond fit into this, historically?
Having defeated the Sikh army in the Second Anglo-Sikh War, the British confiscated the gem as war booty.
Thank you, Professor, for your invaluable insight into the matter. No further questions.
My lord, members of the jury, whatever may or may not have happened during the tenure of the East India Company in 1849, we are simply here to discuss the allegation that the Koh-I-Noor diamond was taken illegally and should be returned forthwith to India. That is the only matter for the court today. As previously stated, the Crown contends that the Koh-I-Noor diamond was given to the Empress Queen Victoria as a gift. To confirm the veracity of this fact, the defense calls on Lord Dalhousie.
In that case, you may step down, Professor. Thank you. Mr. Barrett.
Call Lord Dalhousie.
Calling Lord Dalhousie. Please state your name and designation.
I am James Brown Ramsay, first Marquess of Dalhousie, known as the Earl of Dalhousie.
Please raise your right hand, Lord Dalhousie. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you your God?
I do.
Thank you.
My lord, my memory fails me at times. Would it be in order for me to use some notes?
No. Indeed, you may do so. Mr. Barrett, your witness.
Thank you, my lord. Lord Dalhousie, please confirm your official status in India during the period in question.
As colonial administrator in British India, I served as Governor General from 1848 to 1856.
It is said that you stood out as a far-sighted Governor General who helped consolidate East India Company rule in India and who laid the foundations for your future administrations and through whose sound policy enabled your successors to stem the tide of rebellion. Is this correct?
Indeed, it is.
Please, enlighten the court of your various notable contributions in service to the crown.
I established the foundation of the colonial education system in India by adding mass education to elite higher education. I introduced passenger trains to the railways, the electric telegraph, and uniform postage, which I described as the three great engines of social improvement. I also founded the Public Works Department. I am proud to say that my period of rule in India directly preceded the great Victorian Raj period of Indian administration.
Thank you, Lord Dalhousie.
Lord Dalhousie, as a representative of the East India Company, and later as Governor General of India, were you not directly responsible for the systematic commercial exploitation of a sovereign nation?
Commercial growth, yes. Exploitation, no. In contrast to many of the past leaders of the British Empire in India, I considered myself as would an Orientalist monarch who believed that the rule was that of a modernizer. I attempted to bring the British intellectual revolution to India, and as a staunch utilitarian, I sought to improve Indian society, not to exploit it. And I did so. Under the prevalent ideals of the period as postulated by the great English philosopher, jurist, and social reformer Jeremy Bentham, who defined the fundamental axiom of his philosophy that the measure of right and wrong is the greatest happiness of the greatest number.
But you ruled in the manner of an autocrat, did you not?
I ruled with authority, madam. I believe such means were the most likely to increase the material development and progress of India.
Yet, did not such policies, especially your so-named doctrine of lapse, a policy of annexation initiated by the East India Company, directly contribute to a growing sense of discontent among sectors of Indian society? And did this not greatly influence the Indian Rebellion of 1857, which directly followed your departure from India?
That was a complex matter.
Members of the jury, according to Lord Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse, any Indian princely state under the control of the East India Company Lord Dalhousie had worked for gave the latter the power to have such princely status abolished, and directly ruled by the British. It was very clever. You see, all one had to do was judge a particular local ruler as incompetent, and voila, supplant his right to rule. And by use of this dubious pretext, nay, this rueful doctrine of lapse, the East India Company took over many princely states. Here is but a small list: Satara, Bagal, Udaipur, Jhansi, Nagpur, Tanjore, Arcot, and the list goes on and on.
My lord, are we to be treated to a history lesson on the interworkings of the East India Company?
Quite so. What is the point you are making, Miss Chamberlain?
My lord, I wish to establish the ruthless nature of acquisition as practiced by then Governor General Lord Dalhousie. For in employing this doctrine of lapse, he did so under the pretext of misgovernance by the princes. In taking over a kingdom after ruling telling a ruler that they were not ruling properly, well, the East India Company took over, they added about £4 million sterling to its annual revenue by this doctrine.
What does this have to do with the Koh-I-Noor diamond?
Indeed, Miss Chamberlain. Please explain.
My lord, it has everything to do with the taking of the gem. Members of the jury, this so-called doctrine of lapse was widely considered illegitimate by many Indians. Using this dubious precept, the British gained immense power in India. They became the de facto rulers right across the country, territories all the way across, and specifically in 1849, under Lord Dalhousie's command, the famous Punjab was taken by the British. The diamond itself was captured by claiming that the young king his treasury was war booty. He was forced to hand over the diamond and hand it to Queen Victoria, or at least it was given to her. It was a sheer act of bullying.
Objection.
Overruled, Mr. Barrett. The court will hear where counsel is going with this. You may proceed.
Thank you, my lord. Lord Dalhousie, I put it to you that by nature you were a bully.
I was not. I highly resent the accusation, madam.
Then permit me to refresh your memory, sir. Is it not true that when you entered the prestigious Harrow School in 1825 as a boy, that you and another student, one Robert Adair, were both expelled after bullying and nearly causing the death of another student? I put it to you further that you carried that same streak of tormenting and intimidation well into your later life in India, where you systematically undermined the rule of the local princes and thus managed to obtain the Koh-I-Noor diamond.
I highly resent the accusation, madam.
It is well documented, sir. You were an exacting bully, and it resulted in you eventually being denounced by many in Britain as having failed to notice the signs of the Indian Rebellion of 1857, and by having aggravated the crisis by your overbearing nature, your zealous and expansive annexations of the downtrodden princes, and in the manner in which you dealt with the Maharani Jindanpur and her son. Your witness.
Lord Dalhousie, will you please tell the court why it was necessary for you to employ a more determined stance in the Punjab, especially in your dealings with the Maharani?
The Lady Jindanpur proved to be an extremely difficult person. She was something of a bête noire, an extremely dislikable person, and the source of great annoyance. I've been advised by my resident agent, Sir Frederick Curry, that she never ceased to be defiant and forever serve as the rallying point of rebellion against the interests of the British Empire.
And that is why she was exiled from the Punjab and taken to Kohi-Noor fort, was it not?
Yes. Curry's appraisal of Jindan Kaur's clandestine communications with the rebels she controlled was succinctly put. He confirmed that nothing could have been better planned, more speedily, and more secretly, or better executed than the removal of the Maharani. And I concurred, for as far as any mischief was concerned, she posed more of a problem than all of the rebel soldiers in the state put together.
And how would you describe her treatment within the fort? Was she shackled?
She was not.
Was she treated badly?
No.
Was she ever physically punished?
No, never. Under the charge of Captain Rees, the fort commandant, and by Major McGregor, the British political agent of the East India Company, she was always treated fairly and with the due respect given to a monarch.
How so?
She was free to go about her business within the fort. She was permitted to bring 17 female attendants along with her and allowed the privileges of a person of her standing.
Thank you, Lord Dalhousie.
You say she was treated fairly, allowed the privileges of a person of her standing, unrestricted in her movements within the fort.
She was.
So let us clearly try to understand this. I mean, how may one reconcile your stated benevolence with the actual facts? First fact, she was under constant guard, was she not? Next fact, she was restricted on where she could go, whom she could meet, and what she could possess. Next, when she was deprived of her jewels and other personal items of very high value, when she sent a protest against this high-handedness directly to you, Lord Dalhousie, the so-called far-sighted Governor General and great socially conscious reformer, you, who had her forever exiled from her land, her native land, who separated her from her child, a deliberate act that you would not revoke. And when she complained, you flippantly rejoined thus, and I quote, "Let her live within the income provided." That is a fact, is it not? Yet, you sit there and maintain that she was treated fairly. Well, do you deny these facts, Lord Dalhousie, that when she expressed her grief and indignation at having been separated from her son, and she wrote to you, and again, I quote, "It is a matter of sorrow that you did not weigh things before accusing me. You have me on the instigation of traitors. The treatment you have given to me is not even given to murderers." You, Lord Dalhousie, did not respond to her, but confided in your cohorts, and I quote once more, "Thus the evil woman will disappear from the immediate scene of her triumphs, intrigues, and humiliations."
My comments have been taken out of context. It was a complex time.
Enabled by your own machinations, which enabled you to purloin, no, to take the Koh-I-Noor diamond away from the young Maharaja Duleep Singh.
It was war. Such decisions were necessary.
Necessary? War? So says the self-proclaimed great socially conscious reformer, who, as forementioned, was denounced by many in Britain. and who, under his watch and order, the precious gem was taken as war booty.
My lord, members of the jury, by my learned friend's not so subtle insinuation, you may be given to believe that war booty is the sole invention of Lord Dalhousie. This is far from accurate. War booty, or spoils of war, refers to valuable items seized during wartime. I repeat, during wartime, as was the case with the Koh-I-Noor diamond. The acquisition of such items have been a part of warfare traditions for centuries and will continue to be so.
That has been historically the tradition, but not war booty. But historically, war booty was considered legitimate if it was acquired under proper circumstances, such as during a battle. Lord Dalhousie, I ask you, was the Koh-I-Noor diamond taken on the actual battlefield?
Please answer the question, Lord Dalhousie.
No, my lord, it was not taken on the battlefield. But as with any conquering army, it was still well within our claim to obtain movable property belonging to an enemy state that had been conquered, including military equipment, cash, funds, realizable securities, means of transport, stores, and supply.
But not cultural property that is protected, as stated in the 1954 Hague Convention. It is immune from capture as war booty.
The Hague Convention did not apply at the time, madam.
But it does today, sir. And that is why today the prosecution calls for the immediate surrender of the Koh-I-Noor diamond to the Sikh nation. I have no further questions for this witness.
Mr. Barrett?
No further questions, my lord.
Very well. Thank you, Lord Dalhousie. You may step down. I think it is appropriate we recess, take a break now, and resume later.
All rise.